Good morning, it's Jonathan Barratt with the Week Ahead report. The current date is October the 25th. It's Monday, October the 25th, and welcome to the Week Ahead report. Obviously, over the weekend, we'll run through some quick numbers on what the Dow did, and then we'll get into a little bit of news, G20, how that might affect the market at the moment, or how it has in fact affected the market this morning. They obviously had a meeting in South Korea over the weekend to certainly discuss trade imbalances. Then we'll look at what's due out in the calendar this week, and then we'll look at a few trends and a few themes that we've been following to see whether or not we should change our mind on a few areas and also a few trades. Okay, let's start off with just a little bit of a recap, just to get ourselves relatively fresh in terms of what's happening out there in market land, and I guess a bit of an overview there, and that's just coming up here. Let's move that out. Okay, the Dow, as we know, was down 14 points, pretty much unchanged on the night, 11,132, quite a roller coaster night there as well. S&P was up 2 and the Nasdaq was up 19. The Stock 50 in Europe was down 8, the FTSE was down 16, the CAC was down 9, and the DAX was down 5.7. Equity markets obviously remaining relatively mixed. I think really looking for some form of lead, out of the US. In Australia, we were down 4 points, 4,645. 47.20 eludes us all at the moment, so quite interesting on that front. Okay, let's just have a quick look at just some of the other markets. And here we go here at the moment. Obviously the major ones here. Just move that back up there. And obviously dollar index is probably the key. We have been looking for some strength, some dollar strength of late, and that's what we have seen. Relatively mixed on a Friday night, but overall. Let's just try and get that. There we are. There, that's it. There, just a little bit of a. That's not a trade, that blip down there. But when you look at it, it's moving in a sideways price action. Anticipation there is perhaps a little bit more strength. When we look at the daily chart here, you can see what we're looking at. Major low there, and expect dollar strength to resume. I like the fact this is the measured move here. It looks quite nice. Obviously, if that breakthrough there, 76.50 goes, well, then we'll have to revise our bullish outlook for the US dollar. Just quickly looking at crude 81.89. A little bit of optimism around the crude market at the moment, but we have been in a range for some time, and as you can see, really not excited either way as to whether or not it breaks out. There you can see now, just grab that data there. There's the big range there, and just you can see, just going sideways, nothing too exciting. Same with copper, 381.40. Just going sideways there. Top end of the range is 383, 384, and a little bit of divergence here, which is I actually like the fact that we could come under pressure. Let's see how that unfolds. Now Aussie dollar 98.58. Momentum and divergence suggests it should be going lower. That's the technical side of the market. So we've got a long dollar position at the moment. That's long US dollar position, short Aussie. So we're anticipating it to trade a little bit lower on the back of that. On the local market, let's try and get the good one there for the local market, 46.45, and that seems to be looking okay at the moment, but once again still within a range, and we've got to see this 47. That's a big movement up here, 47.20 broken. We get that, then it's okay, but at the moment all a little bit nervous in terms of whether or not that does break through that level. Okay, now let's have a look at, I guess, the most important thing. We had G20 over the weekend. A lot of talk, obviously, between 20, and it looks like the US are a little bit concerned with, obviously, those countries that have a surplus, Germany and China. And in fact, there's been a pledge. There's been a pledge that the G20 will examine and provide guidelines for current account surplus and deficits. Now, I'm not thinking that this is going to actually go too far on this, because each economy has in its own right the way it can manage its own economy, and to be penalised for having a surplus I don't think is not fair. But the US is actually saying that, well, it isn't fair, and I think that's a concern. Particularly, you're going to penalise those economies that are doing well. But let's see how that unfolds. Obviously, there was a pledge there to understand more about it. Also, a little bit more understanding and more involvement from the IMF. IMF in terms of monitoring these and looking for signs of economies that have a bit of a concern. But let's go on to the data now. And I guess the most important data when I go through the week, when I look at it, it all culminates in Australia for CPI on Wednesday. So that's going to be quite important. And in the States, we've got durables. But let's run through things. Producer price in Australia, this is always the lead. It's the lead indicator for the CPI, and will also provide us with a clue as to whether or not the RBA will look to lift interest rates come Melbourne Cup Day. The market is sort of thinking that they will, but we'll have to see. But the difference is certainly very, the bid and the offers are very, very close in terms of whether or not that will occur. The RBA is pretty much a little bit undecided as to what will effectively happen. Okay, we've got IP out of new orders out of Eurozone, which is important, and obviously existing home sales. We're all looking for a little bit of a positive kick from there on Monday night or tonight in the States, so let's see how that unfolds. Moving on to Tuesday. Tuesday we've got Case-Shiller home prices. That's going to be very important. The market will look at that in the index. Also consumer confidence. Very important here is to see exactly how that will unfold and also help us to guide policy. In the States we've got GDP quarter on quarter. That's expected to be a little bit lower than higher. And that's obviously also there to reiterate our concerns in terms of the ability of the economy to try and kickstart, and I think that's going to be quite interesting. Remember, we've got all those programs, and in the States, in the UK, which have been put out, and let's see if we get some confidence from that front. We've also got a lot of consumer confidence in the States, and we've got the API data on the crude. Now looking into Wednesday, as we said, the CPI, RBA trimmed means, all those bits and pieces will be very important for us. As you can see, we're looking for a higher number than the 0.6 reading, and that should culminate in some movement on interest rates on Melbourne Cup Day, if in fact it is a little bit higher. We've got most important data in Japan, retail trade, which will be very important because that'll give us a clue. Remember, Japan has just lowered its rates, and they're looking at a $62 billion fund to help stimulate their own economy. The States, we've got new home sales, Department of Energy data, which will obviously be widely watched, and durable goods orders, which will be quite a key there. Now moving on to Thursday. Thursday, I guess the most important thing is we've got quite a lot of data in Japan again, CPI, national CPI and IP, so that's going to be widely watched in terms of yen. Eurozone confidence will be very important, and money supply in New Zealand. On Friday we've got in Australia private sector credit, vehicle production in Japan. We've got M4 and net leading in the UK, which will be pretty important because we do focus a lot on that. And in the States, GDP, personal consumption, and a few confidence indexes there. So that could be quite interesting on that front. So it's going to be, I think, quite an interesting week. There's plenty of data to get our teeth into. I think the most important ones are ones for Australia in terms of that PPI and CPI. See if we get some lead, and also see if we can break through that 47.20 area, which I think will be quite a key. So, yeah, lots out there. Of the trades that we're actually looking at, short gold, keep an eye on that 13.15 now, because if 13.15 goes on the downside, 1300 is just around the corner. Also keep an eye on copper. Copper, if it breaks down below that 374 area, 75, could see a bit of a trade on there, particularly as we come into the Northern Hemisphere winter. Aussie, as we know, we're short there. We might have to change of view there temporarily due to what comes out in interest rates, because I don't want to stand in front of a freight train, but let's see how that unfolds. So that's about it for the week ahead report. I hope everyone has a good week, and we'll certainly talk to you over the coming days. Bye for now.